Hello, everyone. I'm Paris Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to 12 O'Clock High, a podcast on business leadership with Tom Fox, hosted by Richard Lummis.
What makes a great leader? Is it genetic, or can you learn leadership skills? Join Tom Fox and Richard Lummis in this podcast, where they consider leadership from a wide variety of perspectives: academic, behavioral science, history, popular culture, the movies, and much more. You'll learn about specific tactics and strategies that you can bring to your own leadership toolkit. 12 O'Clock High is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
In this episode of 12 O'Clock High, a podcast on business leadership, Richard Lummis and I take our annual review of the podcast we put on in 2020, where we might be going in 2021 in terms of our presidential series, book reviews, and of course, Oscar-winning movies.
Hello, this is Richard Lummis. I'm here with Tom Fox for another episode of 12 O'Clock High, a podcast about leadership. In these discussions, we draw what we hope are interesting examples from our own experiences, history, business, literature, and politics to examine what constitutes good leadership and extract lessons we can use to improve our own leadership skills. Welcome back, Tom.
Hello, Richard.
Today, we're going to perform our year-end review of 2020 in the hopes that it's almost over, and then talk about 2021 and where we might go. What are your thoughts, Tom?
Well, we had a lot of fun this year, Richard. I suppose we can talk about our favorite series and some of the places that we've gone, but we started off with just a lot of fun series about business failures from the prior year, business frauds going forward. It turned out to be very prescient. One of my favorites is obviously the Oscar-winning Best Pictures and what business leaders or leadership lessons we can draw from those. And we had a couple of presidential series that were just a ton of fun. We did one that I think you and I both really enjoyed, which was leadership lessons from Marcus Aurelius, someone that we have both studied and perhaps drawn inspiration from. So I really thought that we had a wide variety of lessons, leadership lessons this year, and the things that, I guess maybe I should ask, what were some of your favorites before I go on?
Well, I always love the movies, and we did Casablanca this year, and The Greatest Show on Earth, which I had not seen. I also thought Marcus Aurelius was good, but I think my favorites were the Theodore Roosevelt and George Washington ones. The depth that those two men had, and how lucky this country has been that we had them when we did. And where are they now?
I was going to save Roosevelt for the last for me, because not only was that my favorite series, frankly, that was the most fun researching a topic I had in quite some time. And I pride myself on knowing a lot of American history pretty well. And there was a lot to his life I was not aware of, or I'd somehow forgotten over the years. And the breadth and scope of what he accomplished literally as a 21-year-old up till the time he died is I don't want to say unsurpassed in American history, but his right up there. He was an engaged, curious listener and learner. You reviewed his daily diary for a couple of different time frames, and he set aside an hour a day to read, and he would set aside an hour to talk to people. And that's not something you typically see from a political or a business leader today. He never stopped learning. He never stopped growing, educational-wise, professionally-wise. And it just was a lot of fun researching all of that, in addition to everything else he did.
And then actually I was going to suggest that we don't abandon Theodore in the next year, because there's a book that came out this summer called The Hour of Fate, Theodore Roosevelt, J.P. Morgan, and the Battle to Transform American Capitalism. That's really about the Northern Securities case. And I thought that would be an excellent lead-in to discuss the current antitrust case against Facebook and arguably other big tech companies. It's a different world, but some things haven't changed.
Well, considering we've touched upon both of those individuals in prior podcasts, Roosevelt in the Roosevelt series and J.P. Morgan in our financial crisis series from 2019. I think that'd be a great to see their intersection. And you're absolutely right. What are the lessons learned from Facebook other than don't put stupid stuff in emails? Mark Zuckerberg, even here, the CCO, it's easier for us to buy competitors than to outperform them in the marketplace. Yeah, don't put that in an email. Any other suggestions on directions we might go? In addition to our Oscar series?
Yeah, we've got, I'm still working on my 2 biographies at the moment with Frederick Douglass, which has proven to be far more interesting. He's one of the early, really, celebrities, and it's an interesting look at the moral authority of celebrity almost, and how his opinions changed over time as a result of the intransigence of the pro-slavery side. I think is also going to be interesting. George Marshall, I think, is a neglected hero that we should address as well. We still have a couple more presidents we need to do. And then finally, there's another one that just this last week, I read an article on what Bill Gates has been reading and how important he feels general knowledge is over specialists. And then Elon Musk saying that the MBA has ruined American business because it's got people who only think about business and don't have any knowledge of the broader world. And then there's a book that came out this year called Range, Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. And given our eclectic interests, I thought we might want to take a look at that.
I have a colleague who I still don't know how he did it, but he read what he termed the top 100 business books in the history of the world this year. I'm going to interview him and we'll see how that goes. But the other thing is the business failures that we saw this year, I think, are going to be particularly challenging as we move into a completely new business environment. In another podcast, we talked about what is COVID-19 and the coronavirus pandemic meant for business. And I think the number of changes that we've seen will dictate changes in leadership style as well. So perhaps we can visit some of those, but very excited about continuing our President series. Love the idea of the book, The Hour of Fate. And
well, we can all hope that we have a much more happy and prosperous 2021. We've certainly had a challenging 2020. Actually, I feel incredibly fortunate that mine has not been more challenging than it has been. A lot of people have had it a lot worse. So on that note, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all our listeners of 12 O'Clock High, and signing off for Tom Fox and Richard Lummis.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox again. I hope you enjoyed this episode of 12 O'Clock High, a podcast on business leadership. Also, check out the article that the podcast is based upon in the show notes. Please join us again for our next episode where Richard Lummis and I will take another look at leadership. 12 O'Clock High, a podcast on business leadership, is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio.